Hi, welcome back to the Hear Her Roar podcast for episode 2. Today we have Miss T with us, and she's just going to give a quick intro about herself.
Okay, well, hi everyone. It's Miss T or Miss Maddock for anybody who isn't sure who Miss T is yet. I'm our head athletic trainer here at St. Mark's. I've been here for 11 years now. I live on campus with my family, and my background in athletic training, I was a high school athlete who had plans to become a college athlete, got hurt, found another path in the world of athletics. This is what it became. I went to Quinnipiac for sports medicine, moved out to California after college for a job at San Diego State while also getting my master's in sports psychology. The job with San Diego State also turned into a job with the San Diego Chargers in the National Football League. And after 2 years with them, I decided to try some other levels and worked at a brand new charter school in Carlsbad, California. That was grades 7 through 12 as the head athletic trainer, the middle school health teacher. I taught biology, and I also coached middle school girls basketball and high school girls basketball. Due to some family situations back here in Boston, I moved back and took a job at Boston College, working with field hockey, ice hockey, football. And after 3 years at Boston College, a job at St. Mark's came open, and I then took that chance and have been here ever since.
That's really amazing. I didn't know half of that.
Yeah, I don't talk about all of it all the time.
Can you share a little bit about your experience being a female athletic trainer working with an entirely male staff?
Yeah, so a lot of the early parts of my career were mostly male staff. Coaching staff for San Diego State football was all male. Coaching staff for San Diego soccer, all male. Women's water polo was all female. Very nice coaching staff. And then San Diego Chargers, pretty much all male. Most of the females were in areas of marketing and PR and things like that. We didn't have a lot of female athletic trainers in the NFL at that time. And it can be really difficult. There's a lot of males who don't trust that a female in the world of football knows what they're doing. They probably don't trust that you are even strong enough to help stretch or move their leg or their arm or anything like that. They assume you have that motherly side to you where when somebody gets hurt, you're going to baby it or rush too quickly. For an instance, we had a player go down. I waited in a lot of period of time that I normally wait and went to run out, and I had a coach grab me by my belt loops on the back of my pants and pull me off the field and tell me to stay there and don't move because they did not want an injury timeout called, and they wanted that player to just get up and keep playing. And when the trainer comes on the field, usually the player has to come off. And it was on national television, so it was a little bit embarrassing, but early on in my career, so you got to go through those embarrassing moments to learn from them. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's difficult at times, but I have found the more I work in this career, the better it gets because my knowledge has, become more and more as I keep going, and people tend to respect that. Mm-hmm. You also just have to prove to people that you know what you're doing regardless of who you are and prove to them that you're there for the right reasons and be there for the right reasons. And usually it all irons itself out. I haven't had an incident in a long time where working with an all-male staff has been a problem.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
Tying it back to, St. Mark's and your experience at St. Mark's, do you, in your experience, think that female athletics are treated different than male athletics?
I think there's a lot of people who do think female athletics and male athletics are treated differently. I think people look at it from a non-in-depth lens, I guess I could say. I do think in my experience of watching athletics, I've found that there is an intense amount of action that goes along with male sports that most men as watchers are drawn to. But I do think when people take a look and watch the level of athletics that we participate in here at St. Mark's, our female athletes are phenomenal athletes, and they showcase and put on a great show when people get into it. I do think there's instances where, because some of our teams have been more successful than others, there are things that are laid out for them more, not by the school necessarily, but by opportunities that they get to jump into, whether it be playoffs or getting to play in, bigger games at bigger places. That's more the success of a program. I don't think it has anything to do with the school or even our faculty and staff and our students pushing male athletics before female athletics. And I do think we've had a lot of programs that have needed to rebuild a little bit. And as they've been rebuilding, there's been a lot more excitement for the programs as it keeps coming. So I can't say I think they are treated differently. I think a lot of people perceive it differently. And I think from what I've seen over my last 11 years here is that our female athletes are really kind of busting the doors open on showing that they're just as strong and as exciting and as intense as athletes as our male counterparts are. And that's changing a little bit of that perception for people, which is a great thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Kind of going off of that, do you think even how the specific teams here train at St. Mark's, but should female athletes train differently than males? And how should that be implemented, and how should that happen at St. Mark's?
I think the only differences in training that need to happen for males and females are based off of just the anatomy of the body. So we know in our world of sports medicine, female athletes are more likely to have ACL tears. That's having to do with a hip-to-knee ratio that we see in the way bones are laid out in the body and the way the body develops over years of growth. So females need to train in an area of their lower body to prevent ACL tears. So that for men is much different. Not to say that males don't tear their ACLs, but most males tear their ACLs off of either a significant force activity or kind of just a hard motion, where females, sometimes it's just the landing, because we tend to be a little bit weaker around the knee if we don't train that area more extensively. And that's just having to do with body anatomy. It doesn't necessarily have to do with how much an athlete trains or things like that. So weight room activity, so workouts in Coolidge, should be based off of, the more optimal things that help an athlete perform when it comes to their sport. So certain sports should train differently, but it doesn't mean that men's and women's hockey should train differently. The one thing that we need to be aware of is that females, if they're more likely to tear ACLs, you put in an extra exercise or two to help with, the hip to knee ratio piece. That's it. I don't think they need to train. I don't think anybody needs a different size bar when they're doing bench press. I think we probably have some female athletes here who can squat more than some of our male athletes. And obviously I know I've seen some of our male athletes can bench more than our female athletes. It's just, it's based off the training regimen. But I do think that both male and female athletes can train the same.
Thank you.
Would you say your experience as a female athlete when you were in high school is similar or different from our experience now?
I think it's pretty different. I say this a lot. When I was an athlete, you had to do your job. You had to go out on the court, on the field, wherever, and do your job. And you just had to do your job well. You had to be a good teammate, and you had to be consistent. You didn't have to be flashy. You didn't have to be over-exuberant. You didn't have to take all the attention for the team away. And I try to remind a lot of our student athletes of that coaches still do look at those pieces. You got to be a good teammate. You got to work hard. If you're the one who loses the puck in the neutral zone, you better be back checking your butt off to get back there and not relying on your teammates to just save you. You need to do the work. That's how it was growing up for me. We didn't specialize in sports. I played 3 or 4 sports a year, all year round for my whole life. And it actually ended up that when I did start to specialize in basketball for recruiting purposes, that's when I saw myself getting injured more. And that is also where I saw my career go out the window, because as a female basketball player who's 95% more likely to have a knee injury, I had a knee injury, and it ended my career. it ended up being probably the best thing that ever happened to me, which is really bizarre for people to hear. But it kind of just opened this door that I had always had an interest in, and a door that I have found I think I do a pretty good job at, which is great. There are still moments where I say to myself, what would life have been like? And that's why, like, when I have conversations with our student athletes here and they say, well, I really, I want to do this or I want to do that or I have to get ready for the season. Well, getting ready for hockey season, playing soccer is a great way to get ready for it. You know, hockey's a really awkward motion on the body, and the running and the hip opening that you have to do in soccer actually helps prevent injuries from happening at the next level with hockey. And so I think athletes participating in multiple sports, which is what we all used to do back in the day, is a better way to go about things, because it really is. It doesn't mean that you can skip your weight room time. It doesn't mean that you can, skip your shooting room time or being up in the gym and, shooting 100 free throws and things like that. But it means that your body has all these other dynamic movements it's working through, that when you specialize in one thing, it just does the same thing over and over and over again, and the body doesn't like that. So I do think sports has changed in the sense that people are picking one and trying to stick with it. I also think there's this kind of overwhelming abundance of need to commit to schools really, really early. And to prove yourself as an athlete through, the social media world of it, as opposed to just proving who you are as an athlete on the court or on the field. So I do think that it was a little bit simpler back in my day.
How does your experience working in the collegiate and professional athletics level compare to working here at St. Mark's?
They were all really fun. Everything's been really fun. It's been eye-opening experiences everywhere. Working in the NFL was a dream of mine. One I very quickly realized was a bad idea. You get no life. You get no free time. You don't get a lot of respect either. Once you move up the ranks, you get more respect. But as a 22-year-old female working in the NFL, you don't get a lot of respect. Not to say there aren't some great people who work in the NFL and some athletes who've been unbelievably great to me over my time. I found that working in the collegiate level was really exciting because those athletes aren't being paid to do the job. So there's a little bit less stress on what I'm doing job-wise, in the sense of getting screamed at that somebody's got to be on the field, or them saying, I'm not going to get a paycheck, you're ruining my life. But again, at the college level, a lot of them are like, I made it here. I know what I'm doing. I know better. And you're like, well, do you really? No. I feel that I've probably stuck at St. Mark's the longest because you do get to have relationships with your athletes in every level. You develop friendships, you get to know their families, things like that. I think getting to be a part of athletics and just the community at St. Mark's has been probably the most exciting piece, because you feel like you can really make a difference in somebody's life. You've learned from the things you've gone through. You can bring that forth to the table to everyone. And it's weird to say, but as high school students, you're still kind of moldable, which once you get to levels where people are moldable, it's hard to do the job. It's hard to get people to buy in and kind of respect the decision and the understanding. And a lot of our students are probably still too young and can't even, if I say no, they don't really have a choice, which is a little bit weird. So you always try and make it everyone's decision. But it makes it easier when you feel like the people you're working with respect your decision and respect what you're doing. I think having the background that I have did open the door for me here, in the sense that people were like, oh, she works in the NFL. She must be fantastic. And that was good because it kind of started things off a little bit easier for me. But again, anywhere you go for a job, you've got to prove that you know what you're doing, and you got to prove that you're good at it. But I enjoy being here because of the community and because of the impact I get to make in student athletes' lives, as opposed to at the college level, like once they're gone, they're gone. So I still have a couple relationships from the professional and college level that I still stay in touch with people, but that's a rare person who stays in touch with their college athletic trainer. So, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, thank you for sharing all that with us. I think
welcome.
we learned a lot in
Mhm.
those.
Great.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hope so.
I have one
Anytime.
last thing for you. Do you have a piece of advice that you'd like to share with the female athletes here?
Don't underestimate yourself, and don't think that you always have to. Don't think that you always have to, prove yourself in the world of sports as something more than you feel like you need to be. Go out there, do your job, do it right. Don't compare yourself to other athletes. Don't ever compare yourself to an athlete in a different sport or a different field. And just work really hard and don't let anybody tell you you can't.
It's great.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thanks for listening.